Phil, I know you're obviously so passionate about that program, and rightfully so with all the success you had up in Boulder, but through 3 games, the Georgia Tech game was just so frustrating between the inability to stop the run, the mismanagement of the clock late, and then even the Delaware game. You don't feel great about that until Ryan Staub comes in right before the half, and then last Friday night in Houston was certainly tough to watch. I'm just curious your thoughts before we get into Wyoming. As a proud alum, a guy's got a lot of records up there.
Yeah.
Does it hurt your heart a little bit to see CU struggling this much early?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely frustrating. I had high hopes, and I still have high hopes for this year, and expectations were, and Coach Prime, set the expectations in saying that they're going to be a better team, and they are a better team than they were last year. Well, that's hard to say when you have Deion Sanders, who was a really, really good college quarterback. You had a Heisman winner in Travis Hunter, and you had 3 other receivers go to the NFL. But then for you to turn around this year and say, hey, or face forward this year and say, hey, we're going to be a better team, I was excited. And through the first 3 games, it's kind of been a disappointment just of how it looks. Defensively, with the depth that we have, with the type of players that we have, it's not good enough. And damn sure offensively, we have no identity. As a team, we don't have an identity, but if you want to single it as units, offense has no identity. We don't know what we're good at. We don't know if we can run the ball. The only thing that we can hang our hat on is we have a decent offensive line, and we have a true top 5 pick if he can continue to do his thing in Jordan Seaton. What's in the bag? See, he's going to be a great NFL left tackle, offensive lineman as he gets older. But it's very disappointing right now in what the Buffs are doing, but there's time to turn it around.
Yeah, and hopefully that comes this weekend against Wyoming. The Buffs will host them at Folsom Field. The old 8:15 kickoff. Oof, that's a late one. I know the tailgaters love it because, heck, you can just have dinner and a couple drinks in the parking lot, whatever. But for those of us watching it on TV, let's hope we can go to bed in the third quarter because the Buffs are blowing the Cowboys out. But I've got news on Wyoming. They were down only 3-0 to Utah last week at halftime, the number 20th ranked team in the country. And yes, Utah went on to win the game 31-6. Wyoming lost by 25. But that being said, they played a very competitive half of football against the top 25 team. I'll ask you this, Mr. Phillip Lindsay. Is this a trap game for a football team that's not playing very well right now in Coach Prime and CU?
This could only be a trap game if you were winning all your games. If Colorado would have beat Georgia Tech the first game of the year, feeling good about themselves, if Colorado would have beat Houston and you're 3-0, then you could consider Wyoming a game that you should be able to handle and handle well, a trap game. This is not a trap game. This is a game that you know that if you drop and you're Coach Prime in the bus and you drop this, you may not end up being bowl eligible this year. You have to be able to beat the teams that you need to beat. Beat the teams that are supposedly the easy teams. Delaware you were able to handle at the end there, but it didn't look good. Wyoming's going to be a tough matchup because defensively Wyoming has a good defense, a bad offense, but a really good defense. But right now you're trying to figure out who you are as a team, who you are as an offense, who you are as a defensive player. So going into this game, it should be laser focused. Everybody should be ready to go. Everybody should be wanting to score a touchdown. And you look up at the score at the end of this game, it should be 45-0 because you should be that pissed off that you don't look good after 3 games so far.
Yeah, and I appreciate your optimism with bowl eligibility, but they got BYU, TCU, Iowa State, Utah looming. Phil, I'm not sure they get to 6 wins if they lose to Wyoming. They may not get to 4 wins if they lose to Wyoming.
This is why you got to beat Wyoming.
Yes.
And the Big 12 is still wide open. You don't know what to expect. Yeah, one thing that I've learned playing this game, playing in college in the NFL, is when you're watching film, a team may look really, really good against another team, but then they go up against you and they don't look as good. And you're like, they're human. They're just like us. And it's all about matchups. But if you want to have that opportunity to hang and try to get to a bowl game, win 7, 8 games this year, because you still can. It's going to be hard to do, but you still can. You got to beat Wyoming, Will. Why are you smiling at me, man?
Because my guy is bleeding black and gold talking about 7 and 8 wins.
Hey, look, I'm just saying it's still out there. I'm not saying we're going to do it, but
it is. And the Broncos could still go 15-1 or 16-1.
They still can.
Could have lost to Wyoming. If the offense is the reason why, No one loves to talk about these things, but it has been a topic. Could have cost someone like Pat Shurmur his job.
Yeah, I believe for Pat Shurmur, I mean, Pat Shurmur's been here for 2 years now. All right, the offense didn't look as strong. Even with Pat Shurmur being the offensive coordinator, it was more of a Shedeur Sanders show, and Shedeur running that show and telling Pat Shurmur what he wants done. For Pat Shurmur, he needs to have a good game. He's being evaluated, and if he is not ready for this moment against Wyoming, he is not going to be ready for conference play. He is not going to be ready against TCU, against Utah, and therefore Coach Prime may be forced to make a decision. Maybe it's not firing him. Maybe it's moving him and letting somebody else call the plays. But Pat Shurmur needs to show up. He needs to show his creativity about being with the run game, with the tight ends, with the pullers and everything that you need to get the running backs and the quarterbacks in open field. If he's not creative enough, then it's going to be an issue for him moving forward.
Yeah, I think the fan base would be kind of up in arms if they lost to the Cowboys. And quite frankly, the fan base may be out on the rest of the season if you lose a game like this. I'm not saying the stands won't be full because I know they've already had a lot of sellouts, and that's the Deion effect. But the enthusiasm level, if you're 1-3 with losses to Houston and Wyoming, that's just not going to be good. I'm not predicting them to lose this weekend, but I don't think anything's on or off the table for the Buffs. You mentioned 45-0. I think if Shedeur and Travis still played here, I'd be on board with that. 45-0. That's the type of win you should have. I know they're going back to Caden Salter. At least that's the report that came out yesterday. I would just turn it over to Juju Lewis. You might as well let him learn on the job and see if
you're saying if they drop this game.
I would have turned it over already to him.
No, you don't do that because there is a lot of turnaround with this team when it comes to older guys. The reason why they've come to this program is that they believe that they can win. If you bring in and you put in Juju, who just turned 18 years old, and you give him the keys, but he's not ready, you're telling everybody around him that you don't care if you win. So you don't do that for Juju just yet. Now, if you lose to Wyoming, okay, I can see that happening. You may end up losing the locker room if you lose to Wyoming because you have so many different players from different teams that are with you now that this is not necessarily a team that's put together and has that chemistry just yet. And they might start being in it for just themselves and their stats and looking for a way out, especially if you get beat by Wyoming when you know you should win.
All right, we'll get back to the Buffs as the show rolls on, but coming up next, Pat Surtain said something kind of shocking at the podium yesterday about his technique against the Colts. You'll hear about it. Phil and I will react.